Okay.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the November 22nd Crow Wing County Board of Commissioners meeting. If you join us for a pledge and a moment of silence.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. The next item on our agenda is open forum. If there's,
Commissioner Hoag, I need to call the roll, please.
see, I told you.
It's okay. Commissioner Coring,
Here.
Commissioner Brecken,
Here?
Commissioner Barrows,
Here.
Commissioner Franzine. Here. Commissioner Hoag.
Here. All right, good.
Yep.
Now we're back to open forum. Okay,
I have something.
all right.
I don't know if you need this. I told them all before.
Yes, please.
Times, and pull it off for later.
Okay, thank you. Oh, no name.
Oh,
Then you can't speak.
well, if you'd like, yep, go ahead.
My turn?
Yep, name and address for the record.
Mike Howard, 4280 Minnehaha Street, in the dark section, where you don't take care of the roads. I've been here before, and of course, I was here about a month ago telling you about the problem I had with going to the administrator and engineer to get on the agenda for the roads. And they never got back to me after 5 months. So I talked to you last month, and you, Mr. Hoag, said you'd get back to me, you'd look into it. So I'm assuming you're a man of your honor? What did you find when you looked into it?
I believe what we found is it's a private road.
It is not a private road, it's a public road.
But it's not a county road.
Back in the 20s, and I'm talking the 1920s, like 100 years ago, somebody plotted out that area and designated the roads as public right-of-way. And the county board at that time accepted that plot, therefore accepted that those roads were part of the county. That they are part of the county. Now, if they're not part of the county, then how can you go in there and do occasional maintenance? Which you do. If you petition, you some neighbors to sign a petition, you'll come in once a year, you put a little gravel on. So you'll do it, but then you won't do it. You know, the same rules have to apply to everything. I hear so many different things. We can't do it because the trucks can't fit. But the once a year when you get a little gravel, they fit then. But otherwise they don't fit. You want us to make a 66-foot road. Now the same plot that shows the roads I'm concerned about shows Sinisam and Donaldson being 60-foot wide. But you blacktop those and you plow those. So the rules apply sometimes, but not always. You seem to have no policy that's consistent. It seems to be consistent with where can we save some money and not give people what they pay for. Because all of us pay taxes, and it says road taxes. A couple of years ago, you made an increase in the road tax budget. That's after we paid for, I don't know how much debt that there was, and you finally got out of the debt. What?
So on that plat you speak of, what, does it list a county road number?
Doesn't show a number. No, it shows, actually it's called, Sinisam is called Brainerd Street.
So this could be a plat approved in a township road, or...
No, county. I've got a copy of it right here. Show you where the county signed for it. I believe I have, yes, right here. This is Brainerd Street. No, this is, what am I looking at here? Here's Donaldson down here, and this is Brainerd Street here. And they're both shown as 60 feet wide. Oh, and here's another one. This
Find
is
the right area on here.
Yeah, I think that's,
Brainerd Street, yes, Brainerd Street's going up just about a,
Here, here's the thing. Stay by the mic or we won't be able to hear you.
okay.
You can just push this button right here.
Okay. You can also take this too. This shows basically the center of it. Red button is going to show me Brainerd Street. Wait, is that, can you give me a red light?
Yep,
I don't see it.
right, it's right there.
There, okay. This is Brainerd Street. This is Ward Avenue. You can see Brainerd Street is 60 feet wide. And you go up a little farther north and you'll get into a couple blocks north. You see Donaldson, which goes east and west. And they're all 60 feet wide. Unless you get over here on the other side, see if I can do that right here. This is Cole Avenue over on the Mission side. That's 60 feet wide. Now you grade those and you take care of those. Those people have a landing strip in front of their house. You know, Cessna has about a 25-foot wingspan. Why do you need a 66-foot road or even a 60-foot road? That's ridiculous. What you're trying to do is blackmail us, bully us into building a road we don't want. When I talk to my neighbors about the road situation, nobody ever says we need a wider road. And indeed, often when we meet each other on the road, one of us has to pull over to the side because that's how wide the road is. But it's all right. We stop and talk to our neighbors that way. It's a friendlier neighborhood. We don't need a 66-foot runway. A car is 8.5 feet wide. 2 lanes, you'd need a minimum of 17 feet. So 66 feet is 4 times that. You can have 8 cars wide across a 66-foot right-of-way. We don't need that. We want to keep our woods and our wildlife. We don't want a big wide road. We just want you to maintain what's there. Now, if you come over to the other side there to Cole, over here in Mission, you come over there and you grade it on a regular basis. You got a thing where you go, okay, we'll go there every month, I think it is, and we'll put down gravel as needed and we'll grade the roads. But you can't go, just across the street a little bit and grade those roads because, they're 6 feet short. If you can do it once a year with a petition, begging hat in hand, to please do it. The other thing I might like to note is that from Brainerd Street, Ward Street going, this is to the south, that's 1 block long. And then if you go south a block and in a half a block, that's where I live. So my road is good there. This is fine. I built that road. I had to build it to get in there. And Minnehaha is fine. But when you get to Cole, people from here and here and here and me and other people farther up Ward are all using that Ward Street. And it gets a lot of use. I figure there's at least 12 households. Figure 2 cars each, plus I don't know how many bicycles, motorhomes, 4-wheelers, golf carts, etc. use that road. That one piece of road gets a lot more use than Cole Avenue, for example. But they all deserve to be maintained. We all pay our taxes and expect the roads to be maintained. I don't think we're asking for anything out of the ordinary.
so who would be grading Cole Avenue?
Mr. Chair, I'm not familiar with the specifics on which ones have been accepted as a township road and which ones have not. I think Mr. Howard would like us to believe that because the plat was accepted by the county, that that automatically means that the roads were accepted by the county. That is not the case. The township has the authority to decide which roads in a plat they will take over and which ones they will not take over. We have not taken over most of the roads in the Sinasam area. They're not our roads. They are public roads, but they are not township roads. And so the owners were responsible for this. We know we have this problem in the FAD, where this is not the only situation where there are private roads in the FAD. And so I don't know what to tell Mr. Howard other than these are not township roads. He does point out that we do maintenance on some of them by petition. We're not obligated to do that. We're just trying to be nice and responsive to the residents, and if the price that we pay for that is that your expectation is that we should do it all the time, well, then we should quit doing it.
How about,
It's not our road.
how about if you can do it and be nice once a year with a petition, you be nice and do it once a month on a regular basis?
It is about the money, Mr. Howard. It
It
is
always
about
comes
the
back
money.
to the money. Well-
And we do not tax the residents of the FAD sufficiently to cover road maintenance on this and all the other private roads that are in the FAD. The levy would need to go up to cover that if we did that.
It just went up.
Moreover, these roads are substandard roads. They're not built to township standards. They're nowhere near township standards, as Mr. Howard has pointed out himself. The cost associated with Mr. Howard's request here is enormous.
So the option would be to bring these roads up to the specification that would, then the township would take over, not the county.
And that's what we have done in the past is, if the residents of an area can bring the road up to township standards, then they can petition for us to take it over. But the cost of bringing those roads up to township standards would be enormous.
It would be, and that's why, one of the reasons we don't want to. And the other reason is, we're very happy with the quality of the width and the size of the road that we have. We don't want to be blackmailed or bullied into building a runway. Nobody out there even owns a plane, but you want a road wide enough to land a plane on.
Mr. Howard, we don't want the road. You want us to take the road. We don't want the road. You want us to take the road.
That's right. I
And so
want you to
if we
take your
take the road,
responsibility.
it should be built to township standards.
Why?
Because that is how we maintain roads and make sure that we can effectively snowplow them. We have room to deposit snow into the ditches so that we're not going to be clogging things up. What about the standards associated with the lift of the road so that we can have some natural wind blowing the snow off the road? That's what we typically do.
You can't plow the road because of the equipment. But wait a minute. We plow the road ourselves. We pay for it. I pay a
your
neighbor
road.
to plow the road. So it can be done. It's not that it's
It's
impossible.
your road.
It's your road.
No, it is not.
Okay, somebody up there, just say, I make a motion that we accept the roads, the red roads. Can you do that? That's how hard it is to do this. Just accept the red roads. Why shouldn't you? They're yours. They're public right-of-way roads, which means the county is responsible for them. We, as citizens out there, can't say, oh, you can't drive on that road. That's a private road.
Well, what you're saying is all roads in the county, the county should be taken care of.
That's
And
correct.
That's just impossible.
It is possible.
And your suggestion that it's a runway, you've got 66-foot right-of-way, but the road isn't 66 feet. You've got ditches on both sides, and it was built to the specifications.
In Mission, where they built them to specifications, you could land an airplane on those roads.
That's great.
They've cut back the trees to 66 feet so they can have this ditch. But then on the other hand, you seem to have accepted Sinasam and Donaldson, which are all part of the same plot that you don't want to accept. So you'll pick and choose which ones you take, but then others you won't take. And I'm just saying, you don't pick and choose, I don't pick and choose which taxes I pay. I have to pay them all, including the ones that I pay for roads. I pay for taxes for the police, and the police come to everybody. I pay taxes for the fire, and the fire department comes to everybody. And I pay the taxes to maintain the roads, and these we'll do, and these we won't do, and therefore that's how that goes.
Have you looked at the policy that we have for taking over roads?
Yeah, I know about the policy you have you want them to be 66 foot wide. Why can't you accept that people, some of the people living on these roads, accept our policy is, we like the road the way it is? Why do you know, it's like if you said, I drive a Cadillac, everybody's got to drive a Cadillac. Some of the people can't afford Cadillacs. But if you can, and you expect everybody else to do it, is there a reason for that, or is that just being pushy and bully?
Well, unfortunately, we can't have hundreds of policies for roads.
One policy, everybody gets treated
And we do
fairly.
have that one policy, and I would just suggest that you review that and get your neighborhood to put a petition together and try to get this up to county standards, township standards.
How do I, who live on Cole Street, get my neighbors who live on Ward Street to pay to upgrade Ward when I'm going to drive on it? That's the idea behind the socialism behind road maintenance. That's why we all pay gas taxes and road taxes, so that we can all have roads. That's why we all pay police department. It would be a mess if we said, okay, this guy paid his police tax and that guy didn't, or this guy paid his fire tax and that guy didn't, so we're going to do some and not others. It's just, I don't want to be bullied into building more road than I ever wanted, or don't want to be put in a position where I have to bully my neighbor into building more road, because I'm not concerned about mine.
Yeah, and I don't think anybody's bullying anybody here.
Well, what do you call it when you-
It's just following this process or the policy that we have in place.
How about changing the policy? You might want to revisit the policy, if that's the problem. Look at the policy and say, why do we have to have a policy that says everybody drives a Cadillac? I mean, everybody has to have a 66-foot road, when that's not necessary for every road to be 66 feet. It's not like every road needs to be an 8-lane highway. Different roads can be different sizes. And those roads can be 60 feet wide, and they can be trails, and they can be what they are that people are happy with. Nobody's complaining about too heavy a traffic.
Mr. Chair, if I can, I hear Mr. Howard and what his concerns are, but, I think the Cinesam Association that really kind of, oversees this, and I think that's kind of, Mr. Howard, the direction I would suggest is that work with the association. I know you're being a spokesperson for what your concerns are, but again, these are township, part of the township, and the association, I think, has to come together to decide what they would like to do, because I know some people are putting together their requests for some upgrades on an annual basis, and I think that working it that way through the association would probably be the best way to get started.
That's
So
right.
then we want to get it so everybody out in the area comes in here to these meetings. That makes a lot of sense, I guess.
Well, if that helps to explain the policy, I guess that's what we would entertain.
Do you put any thought into the reasonableness of your policy?
And we put a lot of thought into
Is it
that.
reasonable to have a 66-foot road for one house, going right up to that last house?
There might be one house now, but in the future, and we're planning for the future, there could be dozens of houses.
Okay? If somebody wants to build dozens of houses, now I'm basically on a dead-end road. I built a half a block of road to get to my house. I built on coal. It was trees there when I bought the property. I built that road cut the trees, dug out the stumps, put in the gravel. I'm happy with it. And you know, it's got a grass strip going down the middle. That's how rustic it is. And I'm happy with it. There's never been a problem with that. But you want that to be a 66-foot road. Everybody's going to have to give up 3 feet of their front yard. They're going to cut down trees that we've had for years and love so that we can hit your policy, your arbitrary policy. That's not reasonable.
Unfortunately, that's the policy we have in place.
I suppose the next policy is you're going to want a bike trail out to my house because you have your policies.
Well, you'd have to talk to the bikers on that.
Well, I guess I'm plenty disappointed. You got an obligation, if you're going to collect taxes for roads, to give us roads, and you don't. And I'm not asking for a lot. I'm asking to maintain the roads that are so pothole-filled that with 12 families using that one block in particular.
Have you spoken to the neighborhood?
Oh, sure, I talk to them all the time. Tell them I come in here and they tell me, go get them. This road is ridiculous, and the county doesn't do anything unless we all get together. On the piece of Ward that I'm talking about, there are 3 houses, three driveways, 3 people that use that road as their driveway comes out on that road. So you want 75%, which means you have to have virtually everybody. There's a house on the corner, but they go out onto Sinisam. There's another one that goes off onto Minnehaha. But there's 3 driveways. Do those 3 people want to pay for a 66-foot road so that everybody else can use it?
Tim, is the policy now just a majority, or is it a supermajority, or what would they need to petition and?
There is a petition process that's in statute as well.
Right.
To petition the township to take over a road. The issues are going to be the condition that the road is in now and whether or not the rest of the taxpayers of the FAD will be expected to cover the cost of bringing that road up to township standards, or whether or not you wish to assess the residents who live on that road to bring the road up to some standards. By Mr. Howard's own admission, it's not much more than a driveway now if there's a grass path down the middle of it.
Well, that's my part of it. The main road, Ward Street, is wide enough to barely meet a car on. You have to pull over onto the grass or whatever. The part of my problem is, and this whole thing started is, what other department, what other situation in Crow Wing County do people have to come to the board or come to the engineer and say, please grade our road? Does anybody else on any other road have to say, oh, we'd like a little service that we've paid for?
Yes, there are.
Where?
There are people in my district that have to do that.
Well, on red roads, I'm assuming.
There are private roads all over the FAD.
There's private roads all over the county that
Okay,
go through
if
the
they're
same
private
process.
roads, I can see that's a private road. And if I went driving around just to see what's out there that's red. And some of the roads are nice, big, wide roads with blacktop on them. But you still don't take responsibility for them. You don't take responsibility for people having a road usable that will get them to town, to get them to medical and shopping and jobs. That's what the roads are for. And I think it's your responsibility to see to it that there are roads that are adequate. I'm not looking for super adequate roads. This started when I didn't want to have to bother my neighbors to go sign a petition to come hat in hand begging to the county for a little gravel. My first thought was, why can't we just sign a petition one time and you do it every month for a year or every month for 5 years? Why does a petition have to be one time?
Well, you could gather your neighbors and determine, you could hire a private contractor to do that work and just figure out how you're going to split those costs.
We do that. I
Okay.
got one neighbor that plows, and we all kick in. Cost me a case of beer last time. That's fine. We can do that, but then we're paying him to do the road, and, oh, we're paying our taxes to plow other people's roads. Is that fair?
Well, that's how it works, and
Is it fair?
I think it is.
You think I should pay?
If we did every road that you're describing in this county, we are talking millions and millions of dollars to do what you're asking for. So is it fair to just do yours and ignore the others?
What
These
I'm
people
at-
know what they bought when they bought that, just like this plat. You know, the county did sign and approve the plat, but it didn't have any, there's nothing on the road as far as what you see there. So if you're on Brainerd Road, which says 60 feet, and you've only got a path,
The point is, I'm not asking for us, I don't want, I would move out if I had to live on a 66-foot runway. That's way more than I want. I want to live out in the country, in the woods, secluded, nice private area. That's not something that's served by a 66-foot runway. What I asked for was simple maintenance. Maintain what's there. Don't build more. You just have to maintain it more. How about, just put some gravel on it without coming to you, hat in hand, paper signed by all my neighbors that says we should do that. And the other thing is the policy is kind of confusing because if the three people on ward, if one of them doesn't want to do it, doesn't want to sign it, we only have half. That's not enough. But those three people aren't the only three people using ward. There's 12 people using ward. But those 12 people, can they petition to have ward fixed? Or can only the people that live on ward have ward fixed? That's part of the problem with your policy too. And once again, why can't it be more than once? Let's start with 2 times. What if we had petitions and we signed, and you came out twice a year and put gravel on and graded?
Bill, did you say there's an association involved here? So, again, I just think, in the event of time, your option would be to go to your association and figure out what the neighbors would like to see done, and then bring that information back.
Basically,
But at-
the association is limited to, it owns property on Gull and Round Lakes, and it takes care of those properties, and that's what the association does. They've got nothing to do with the roads. They're simply a lakeshore association to see who can go swimming at the beach or who can have their docks there.
Mr. Chair, on that, I know that the association has met with the Highway Department
Okay.
in some of this discussion and how this petition process works. And so they're the ones that have also been working and helping maintain the process.
Okay. Well, we've gone beyond the allowed time, so at this point, I think hopefully you've gotten some advice on how to try to correct this, but at this point,
You're not doing anything. You're not being responsible for the money you collect from us to go to our roads. Thank you.
is there anybody else for open forum? I do not believe so. So we're going to move on to review and approve the minutes of the November 8th meeting.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Franzine, second by Commissioner Barrows. Treese?
Just 1 second here. Commissioner Coring,
Yes.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. All right, item 4 is review and approve today's agenda. Anything to add?
No changes.
All right.
Motion to approve?
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrow, second by Commissioner Franzine. Therese, roll call.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Hogg?
Aye. Motion passes. On to the consent agenda. Any questions, comments?
Motion to approve?
Motion to approve. Second.
Motion by Commissioner Barrow, second by Commissioner Coring. Therese, if you would.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine? Aye. Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Yes.
Commissioner Hogg?
Yes, aye. Item 6, community services, public health nuisance.
Ms. Hires. Good morning, Mr. Chair and Commissioners.
Morning.
Morning. I'm Gina Heyer, Community Health Manager for Crow Wing County Community Services. The public health team has been working on a public health nuisance abatement case found on the 3000 block of Meadowview Road in Brainerd. Upon initial investigation of this property on October 7th, 22, public health staff found that a public health nuisance does exist. As you can see, I hope in the pictures here, the concern for public health is the accumulation of garbage, tires, inappropriately disposed of household items and trash, which is not properly stored in an acceptable receptacle. The property owner has been notified by phone and certified letter of the need for abatement. Public Health supplied the landowner with dates and deadlines for compliance, which were not met by the landowner. Public Health has now secured a bid for cleanup with a local contractor with a completion date of December 16th, 2022. We are asking permission of the board to move forward with the abatement of the public health nuisance issues on property 86150505 in Platte Lake Township.
Okay, thank you. Anything to add?
I would just note that we did submit a draft resolution for the county board. I am also available for any questions, and Mr. Connolly is here, and so we will probably want to respond once he is completed.
Okay. If you'd like to come forward and name and address?
Excuse me?
Name and address for the record.
John Connolly, 11, my birthday, 3253 Meadowview Road.
Thank you. Okay, go ahead.
And I thought I got everything done that she asked me to do. I got rid of the tires. I got rid of all the things that she had said. There is no nuisance health problem there. I don't have mosquitoes. I have mosquito magnets. I have permission from the land services to have a business. My business is rental properties. I have to store people's things for 30 to 60 days. Plus, I provide washers and dryers for people so that I have to change out their washer or dryer, and then I have parts that I fix them, and I have scrap metal from all the places that people leave a lot of junk. I have had some serious health issues. In 2011, I was diagnosed with leukemia, and I'm currently 65 years old. My health, my expected life was 5 years back then. I'm still alive now. I had some times where I'm having problems, and then we get the things out. Now I have this man here, who's 20 years old, and he's helping clean up the place, and we've been working on it before this nuisance was reported to me. I have a dumpster. I pay $171. It's a 6-yard dumpster. It's emptied every 2 weeks, and I would, ask you to just let me have some time to at least seek. I thought everything was worked out, and she said, the only thing I'm not concerned about your appliances. I'm not concerned about your steel. I'm not concerned about. It's just some of the things around the gate there. If you could get rid of them, and I did that, and I thought everything was good. And I thought it was just going to be canceled here. And then she told me on Thursday they want to get rid of all the appliances, which is not the agreement I had with Land Services. Land Services says I can have the appliances. There's places here in town, Yides, it's got all these appliances outside, even into their, they just got rid of 150 units, but they have it, it's actually coming out into the streets, you know, with their stuff. I'm a business, I'm not like it's not like I want this stuff, I'm not a hoarder or anything, it's just that I have to deal with these things, and I'm dealing with it, and I'm wanting to get it cleaned up. I had these two guys that were renting apartments in my place, and they were helping me with the heavy lifting and stuff, and they just made a mess of things. I had a trailer that they didn't clean out the garbage in the bottom of the trailer. I asked them to throw it in the dumpster, and they throw it on my lawn, you know? And I just had to get rid of them, and now I'm dealing with what they created. They just made a bunch of messes everywhere, instead of having things organized like I did. And so I'm working on it, and I just need time to work on it. It's my property, I pay taxes, and I put up a big blinder on the gate. I have a 6-foot gate around the whole property. It's a gated driveway, and I just need time to get it the way I want it. And I should have that right. It's, you know, I'm a taxpayer, I pay my taxes. I paid over $10,000 in taxes, and now they're going up like 19% and stuff, and I really had to sell. I had a bunch of junk cars, and I sold them just to pay half a year's tax on them. So it's working out. The place is getting better and better every day, and it's just something that we need to be patient with me. I pray for mercy. You know, judgment rejoices, you know, mercy rejoices over judgment. So I'm just asking for time to be able to do these things that I want to do. It's my desire to do it, and I will get it all done. Now, they ran my Bobcat without a radiator cap and blew the head gasket on it. So I need to get that fixed so I can house. I got a dump truck. I got heavy equipment. I built all the houses. I own 100 acres out there. I built all the houses that are out there, except for the one on the very first one. But I own that. The reason that this whole thing started was this tenant was 2 months behind on her rent, and she wanted me to give her some work. So I gave her some work, and she worked 12 hours at my place, and then she told me she was all done. And I said, what do you mean you're all done? I said, come up with a payment plan. And she's threatened to turn me into the health department, saying that if I took her to court, I had to accept. She was basically charging me $125 an hour because she owed me $1,500, and she only worked 12 hours. So I took her to court. She took me for 4 months' rent. She left a whole bunch of junk there I had to clean up, and this is what I have to do. When people move out, they leave a lot of stuff, especially if I evict them. And I have to store it for 60 days by state law. And I store the good things. I have indoor storage in town. I have storage, I store the good things, and the stuff that I don't know, I mean, if it's garbage, I put it in the dumpster. You know, I got a big dumpster. It's, you know, it's overkill. I pay it $172 a month. I could show you the bill. But I paid it, and it's not, I paid a kid, tried to make a contract with a kid that he would get that dumpster, make sure it was full every 2 weeks, and I'd pay him $100 a month to do that. He came one time, and he wanted me to pay him $50, so I paid him $50, but he never came back. But now I have a very good young man, very strong man, that can help me with moving the heavy things and getting everything organized back the way it was before. But, you know, I do have an agreement with the Land Services to operate in this way.
Okay. I think we'll, a couple of questions. It was suggested that the health issues have been cleaned up, is that correct? Okay.
Stephanie, why don't you come up here?
Yeah, I did everything that she asked me to do with the containers anything that would hold water, but I have horses in the water trough. You know, it is not something, she said artificial. I live right next to a pond, And, you know, there's no mosquitoes, and the guy that used to walk the road said there was no mosquitoes around my place because of the fact I use the mosquito magnets. I have like 3 mosquito magnets. And then I always vaccinate, biospot my dogs, so any mosquitoes bite them, they die and they don't repopulate. So there's almost zero. He could testify that there's no mosquitoes, there's no health problems.
Okay, let's allow Stephanie to explain what the public health part of this is. Looking at that picture, what are we looking at?
Commissioners, this is a public health nuisance. Appliances are required by state law to be disposed of in a landfill or a appropriate or another appropriate venue. These have been there for years, and he has been given opportunities previously to clean things up. Unfortunately, it wasn't pushed as far, I guess you could say. I do have Mr. Free is on Teams, and he can share the 2019 aerial photo so that you can see that what Mr. Connolly has indicated with him having to keep tenants' property for a period of time. This just isn't accurate at this point based on the information that I have. The 2019 photo clearly shows that this has been an issue. So this is 2019. And then we can go to the 2022. The appliances and metal and everything is together. It is garbage. We had a deputy that had to serve Mr. Connolly with documentation. It has been an issue. Everything is still the same. We are not going to be able to sort what is garbage and what is salvage right there. It's very indicative of what we have seen on other public health issues because of the amount of stuff that is there. Essentially, he's running a landfill, unfortunately. We understand that he may have a business and dealing with rental properties, but this is far beyond any of that. We do have a contractor that is available, and we can start this cleanup on Monday. We want to do this before we have any more snow, because we feel it does need to be taken care of at this time. Mr. Connolly talking about any supposed agreement that he had with Land Services. Unfortunately, that's not even relevant at this point because this is a public health nuisance. So regardless, we don't find any documentation that there was any agreement with Mr. Pence, but like I said, it's not relevant at this point because this is a public health issue.
So does this resolution we have today for the entire cleanup?
It is.
Oh, okay.
It is for this entire property.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chair.
Let's, who, is somebody,
I think Commissioner Coring.
Commissioner Coring, did you have anything?
Yeah, is anybody else going to speak
What's that?
from the public? From the public, is anybody else going to speak from the public?
I don't believe so unless
Okay.
this young man wanted to. Go ahead, Paul.
Mr. Chair, I move the request for board action on the public health nuisance abatement 86150505, public health nuisance abatement at the 3000 block of Meadowview Road, Brainerd. I would move that motion.
All right. At this time.
Say anything there?
We will finish up here. We have a motion by Commissioner Coring. Is there a second?
I'll second that motion.
All right, second by Commissioner Barrows. Any discussion? So we'll let you have just a couple comments, please, before we vote.
I would like to have time to seek legal counsel. I didn't have time. I had dealt with the health department like 2 years ago. I brought in roll-offs and had a bunch of stuff that was recycled. And I asked that, allow me to be able to pay my taxes, allow me to take the scrap sale and turn it into money. I have a lot of things there that I know what's there and nobody else knows what's there. So, but I asked that this be continued until I can seek some legal counsel, because I was told that everything she told me was fine, that scrap sale, there's a lot of scrap sale out there that's worth a lot of money. And I've been working on storing it for years and separating out. I know I have health problems, but now I have somebody that can help me to take care of this. But I need time to seek legal counsel before this. It's not going anywhere. It's not a health issue. There's no mosquitoes at this time of year. There's no reason to be pushing this thing. And I thought I had done everything, because she said that the council meeting would be canceled if I got everything done that she wanted me to get done, and I did do everything that she said that she wanted me to do. And so I don't understand why we're here today. So I need time to have legal counsel to deal with this thing, at least. That's the very minimum I think I should be entitled to, because I thought everything was good.
Well,
and I had done everything
all right.
that she asked me to do, so.
At this time, and this thing hasn't just popped up over the last few months. It sounds
Yes,
like
it
you've
has.
had years
It has.
to get this cleaned up. Is that?
No, it's just, this is just, I just got the notice the other day. It's been very.
We're going to bring this
recent.
back to the.
Mr. Chair, if I might, I would like to say to Mr. Connolly, you received a notice on October 13th. You've had over a month to.
Right, and I
to
dealt with it, and I talked to her.
1 minute, I'm speaking. You've had over a month to find a counsel. That's on you. That's not on us, so providing additional time
She said the
is
court
unreasonable.
She
So I
said
would
the
call for the
board meeting
vote.
would be
All right.
canceled. She said that the
Please.
board meeting would be canceled, so I don't understand that.
All right.
And it's just evil, what you're doing. It's evil. You're doing evil here. And you
We
will
are
be
bringing
judged-
this back
you
to
will
the
be
board.
judged
Could you
by-
please take your seat, sir?
Okay.
All right, so at this time, we have a motion by Commissioner Coring, a second by Commissioner Barrows. Treese, if you would.
Commissioner Franzine,
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken,
Aye.
Commissioner Coring,
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows,
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. And I believe you had stated the cleanup will start Monday.
We will
if
be-
weather permitting.
Monday morning at 8:30. We would just ask that the gate be opened so that we do not need to get a warrant,
I have to have horses there, so I'd have to secure the horses.
and that his animals all be secured.
Okay. You understand that?
Yeah, I don't understand why I'm not given time at least to seek legal counsel, because I was told that if I got everything done that they wanted to.
You have a
get
couple
done,
days yet this week that you
I
could
had
do
dealt
that,
with the
so.
health department before, and I got everything the way they wanted it at that time. So I have done whatever that was asked to do, so.
We're past this issue, so we're going to move on to the next item. County Sheriff, any?
Mr. Chair, members of the board, nothing real pertinent. I did want to mention that on Thanksgiving that we will be, our road staff and other volunteers from our agency will be volunteering for the VFW, delivering Thanksgiving meals as we've done in the past. So if you haven't got anything else to do and you'd like to give back to the community, come join us at, I think, 9 a.m. Thursday morning. We'll be lining up to start handing out meals to the community. I spoke with Eric Klang, and he's coming in to meet with me next week. We'll begin the process of transition. So if you have any questions on that, I'll know more next week, but hoping to set up a very professional and as seamless as possible transition for him coming on board. So any questions?
Thank you for that. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you.
Thanks. County Attorney.
I think I just broke this. Anyway. I don't have anything for the board this morning, Mr. Chair. If anybody had any questions, so I'd be happy to answer those.
Any questions for Don? Nope. Seeing none? County Administrator.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, the senior management team met on the 14th of November and talked quite a bit about cybersecurity. As you can imagine, it just gets, it feels like the Amazing Race. We just keep chasing after trying to improve our security as hackers try to improve their capacity to break our security. And so we spend a lot of time and a lot of effort trying to make sure that we keep nefarious actors out of our system. I suspect it's only a matter of time before everybody gets hit some way, but we do our best to try to make sure that we keep that in abeyance as much as we possibly can. We got a presentation from Jory Danielson. Jory is part of a group of people that respond to natural disasters around the country. And so Jory has had he's been down in Texas, he's been down in Florida. So when he came back, he gave us a presentation, and you know, we look at that thing not just from oh my goodness, look at the pictures and the catastrophe. We look at that from the perspective of emergency management preparedness, because something like that can happen here. So it was really interesting to hear Jory talk about the command structure, and it's really kind of inside baseball stuff, but how the incident command structure works, who's in charge when it's a natural disaster, the fire department, the sheriff's department, police departments, and there's some jurisdictional issues that sometimes crop up as well. So it was fascinating to listen to him talk about that. We had a discussion about what we want to put in our 2023 tax mailing. We're trying to, as a team, come together and say, well, what's the most important stuff for county government to put in there? Land Services has offered that real estate, if you will, up for everybody to consider what we might want to put in there. So we're having conversations about that. We talked about trying to scrub our website of any outdated data that may be out there. You can imagine we accumulate stuff, and then some of it turns into dated stuff. And so trying to get rid of some of the outdated website stuff, it is probably going to be time for us to update that website again in 2023 or 2024, but Debbie will be bringing that forward for your consideration at some point in the future. That's what we talked about at senior management team. I do have some other items for you. If you wish, I will proceed.
Yep.
Mr. Chair, there is a request for board action in your packet to renew the contract with Hart for the holding facility for impounded dangerous dogs. You can see in your request for board action that the impound fee remains the same at $50 per day for each animal impounded, a maximum of 10 days. If the owner claims the animal, then they have to pay the fee at the end of the disposition. Otherwise, we pay the impound fee, the veterinary charge, euthanasia, and disposal costs. This is the same contract as we have had with Hart for, as you can see, quite a few years.
Are you looking for a motion?
Move the request for board action.
Second.
Motion by Commissioner Coring, second by Commissioner Franzine. Teresa?
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Hogg?
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, also enclosed in your packet is a request for board action to renew the contract with Hart for the being a holding facility for impounded dogs. This is just for the unorganized territories. Townships generally have responsibility for stray animals, and so this is our way of dealing with stray animals in the FAD and in the SAD. We have a contract with Hart. The impound fee is not changing. It's $16. But the administrative fee is increasing from $683.88 to $706.12 per month. That's based on the census changing from 5471 to 5649. Other than that, there are no changes in the contract. Put it forward for your consideration.
She is here.
All right. We'll entertain-
Motion to approve.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Franzine, second by Commissioner Barrows. Roll call.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Hogg?
Aye. Motion passes.
Mr. Chair, members of the board, also enclosed in your packet is a request for board action, and it really is to set the county board calendar for 2023. It is up on the screen for you. You can see the red ones are county board meetings. The yellow ones are committee of the whole meetings. Blue ones are holidays. Personnel committee is in purple. Budget Committee is in, oh, what would that be?
Orange.
Thank you. And Natural Resources Advisory Committee is in light green. That would be the committee calendar. This would meet our open meeting law requirements for all of these. We will publish these. Anything that's a deviation from this calendar would either need to be a special meeting or an emergency meeting, depending on the circumstances. This is a calendar of all your regular meetings.
Motion to approve the board calendar for 2023.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Franzi, second by Commissioner Barrows. Roll call, Trees.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Aye.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye. The motion passes.
Mr. Chair, members, I would just cover with you something that I got from Micah this morning, and I'll send it to you as well. But they just sent us the county levy per capita, final pay 2022 versus the preliminary 2023. In 2022, we were the 24th lowest in per capita tax rates of the 87 counties in Minnesota. The levy that you've set for 2023 appears as if it will move us into 23rd lowest. So that would move us down one in the ranking for lowest. Per capita, they also sent the highest and lowest levy percents. We've talked about that before, and I've given you, I think, one or two that I knew of. And as it turns out, we're in 9th place with our 2.9% levy, 9th lowest of 87 counties. There's one county in here that went down by 3.5%, Clearwater County. There's a couple of zeros in here and some others, but the average statewide is 4.9%. Yours was 2.9%, so I thought that was kind of interesting as well. I'm happy to answer questions about that or anything related to county government.
Any questions?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Coring.
Yeah, just a question, Mr. Hool. I'm guessing that the counties that are doing the zero levy are using their federal ARPA dollars or something to kind of bridge the gap. Wouldn't you surmise that?
I know that that is the case with some of the counties that are lower than us. The other thing that I noted was Clearwater County, and I also noted Hubbard County. And I just wondered whether or not the degree to which Enbridge and the pipeline coming online was affecting some of those counties and their levies as well. So I would suggest ARPA as well as Enbridge may be driving factors for some of them that are lower than us.
Makes sense.
That's all I have.
Deb, maybe.
Oh, I'm sorry. No.
If we could get a little summary on how yesterday went.
Just reassure me that the winners are the winners.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Commissioner Barrow, yes. That off the top, absolutely, the winners are the winners. I just want to take a couple of minutes and give a little update. Our Canvas board met last Thursday, November 17th, and certified the votes from the November 8th general election and certified that the winners are the winners. So all of those votes have been certified. Those races have all been certified at this point. Commissioner Hogan, Commissioner Brecken heard me share these statistics last week, but I really like them, so we're going to say them again, just so everybody has a chance to hear them. But I want to let you all know that to start the day, we had 46,018 registered voters in Crow Wing County. This is up from about 40,000 registered voters that we had in 2018. So we've talked about some of that permanent population influx moving into our community. This is again reaffirming that we are continuing to see a growth pattern in Crow Wing County. We had a little over 1,400 new Election Day registrations on Election Day, and 7,872 accepted absentee and mail ballots for this election cycle. This is about the same amount that we saw in 2018. And I'm going to refer to 2018 because it was the last midterm similar election cycle. We always talk about elections in the same terms as a comparable election of what you would be looking at. That means that we had 24% of the total votes that were cast this year were cast by absentee or mail ballot, which is right in line with where we were at in 2018 and what our expectations continue to be. We did send out approximately 9,500 absentee ballots that were requested by voters, and 8,000 of those were returned, again, in line with what we would expect to see in a midterm election. We had a pool of 10 election judges who worked in teams of 2, representing different political parties, who did all of the accepting and rejecting review of those 8,000 plus ballots. We also had about 40 hours worth of time over 45 days is what that accepting and rejecting process took. So when you think about the fact that these election judges would come in and work for an hour or 2 or 3, depending on the volume that we had over that time, but the law does require those ballots to be reviewed within a certain number of days of when they are returned. So this pool of judges worked continuously over that 45 days for a total of almost 40 hours. We also had a team of 5 to 6 election judges and deputy auditors who processed the 6,300 ballots that were received in envelopes, the people who voted by mail or absentee balloting prior to the week before Election Day. They processed those ballots in a little over 25 hours over the course of 4 days, including Election Day. There were approximately 160 rejected absentee ballots by Election Day, and in each of those circumstances, we are required by law to send a replacement ballot to the voter whose ballot was rejected, along with a letter telling them why their ballot was rejected, so that they have the opportunity to cast a ballot to make sure that it will count. In fact, the law also requires us within the last 3 days to make either a phone call or email connection with those voters to give them their opportunities for voting in person, to let them know what their options are. Of those 160, the biggest reason, 47% of those were rejected because of a lack of a witness, either signature or witness information. Anyone who votes by absentee ballot must have a witness certify their information, similar to what the election judges do in the polling place on Election Day. So that was what the majority of the rejection rate was for. After the election, we actually received about another 30 ballots that were returned in the mail. Unfortunately, they were rejected because they were received after Election Day. Minnesota law does require that ballots have to be received by Election Day in order for them to be counted. So those voters are going to get what we call voter history. Their voter record will show that they cast a ballot, but nothing will be counted for their ballot. Their ballots will not be opened. They will be retained for that retention period only. So all told, we had 32,813 total votes cast in 2022. In 2018, it was 31,636. So right along the same lines of what we would expect from a midterm election. We had 24,941 people who voted in person in 44 precincts. We had 381 election judges in the polling places, 6 absentee ballot board judges on Election Day, 7 election staff, and 8 facility staff who served the voters of Crow Wing County on Election Day. The state demographer has an estimated eligible voting population as of 2021 for Crow Wing County of 53,143. That is one number that we use when we talk about voter turnout. That's the number that we use as our eligible voting population. And that means our turnout was 61.74% of eligible voters cast a ballot in Crow Wing County. Right in line with what we would have seen in 2018 was around 64%. And the statewide average this year was just around 61%. So we were right with what that statewide average was. Finally, our first precinct reported to the courthouse at 8:55 on election night. That was one of the precincts from the city of Baxter. Cross Lake was the last precinct to arrive at 10:46 p.m. We had all the results loaded into the Secretary of State's website by 11:15, with the last results updating on that site at 11:39. So that means we were actually done and all things wrapped up on election night before midnight on Election Day. And that is really a very, that's awesome. I can't say that enough, that we were done with all of that by midnight. Our election judges did stellar work on Election Day and had very smooth sailing in their polling locations, which is what allowed us to have that happening. So last Thursday, our canvas board met, and they selected, as part of that certification, they also selected 4 precincts for the post-election audit, as directed by your board resolution requiring double the number of precincts to be selected for the post-election audit this year. The 4 precincts that were selected were Perry Lake Township, which is a mail ballot precinct that had 150 votes cast. Manhattan Beach was selected, which is a mail ballot precinct with 39 votes cast. Fairfield Township was chosen. That is a polling place location, and their polling place and absentee votes combined were audited, and that was 202 votes cast. And same with Baxter Precinct 1E, which had 1,562 votes cast in the election. So we had everything from pretty much our smallest to our largest that were drawn as part of this post-election audit. City of Baxter and Fairfield Township each provided a pair of election judges representing different political parties to conduct the hand count yesterday. We had about 10 members of the public observe the process and watch the action as it was going on. This year, the judges reviewed the ballots cast for the races of U.S. Representative and Governor. So it depends on what races are on the ballot. We always review every federal race and then either the president or the governor, depending on which year it is. There were 0 changes of any kind in the city of Manhattan Beach. All 39 ballots in both races were confirmed to be counted exactly as what the machine had counted. There were 0 changes of any kind in Fairfield Township. Both the absentee and the in-person polling place votes came out exactly as the machine counts. In Perry Lake, in the race for governor, there was, the voter had filled in an oval, crossed out that name, and then filled in an oval for another candidate. Now, the machine would have noted this as an overvote. It would have considered that there was no vote that was counted for that particular race because the voter's instructions were to fill in an oval count for vote for one candidate. Because the voter did not follow the instructions and only fill in one, the machine would have assumed that it was an overvote and would not have counted any candidates in that particular race, but would have counted everything else on their ballot as the voter had marked it. As the election judges were looking at it, they could agree and determine what the voter's intent was, and that was to cast a vote for the second candidate that had the oval filled in for it, but not crossed off. So the change for voter intent resulted in 1 additional vote for that candidate and 1 less overvote that was noted on the machine count. This was in a mail ballot precinct, and when election judges are opening mail ballots, they do review the ballots for voter intent. There is a process in the law and statute that allows for election judges to remake a ballot due to voter intent to make sure that every vote can be counted correctly. However, this is one that must have been missed by the election judges. And human error can occur, and that is what happened in this particular instance. When you're processing over 6,000 ballots, it is possible that one could get missed that should have been remade to make sure that that vote was counted for that particular race. In the city of Baxter, Precinct 1E, in the race for governor, we had a voter who filled in a vote for a candidate, but then put an X through another candidate's name. I don't know if they thought that was reinforcing that they really wanted to vote for this candidate and not this one, but in any regard, the mark that they made, that X, also made enough of a mark in the target area that the machine would have also realized that as an overvote, that there were 2 marks in that particular race when there should have only been 1. In this case, because this was an in-person voter, the tabulator, when the voter inserted their ballot into the tabulator, it would have alerted the voter to an error. The machine would have beeped, and there would have been an error message that displayed on the screen that said, "Overvote detected, Office of Governor, you are allowed to vote for 1, you voted for 2. And it would give them instructions to say, push the return button, take your ballot back to the ballot judge, to the election judge, exchange your spoiled ballot for a new ballot, and remark it to make sure that all of your votes will count. There's also an option that would say that the voter could choose to cast the ballot as is, and that alerts them to let them know that if you push this button, no votes in this race will count, but everything else on your ballot that you have marked correctly will be counted. In this particular case, the voter would have chosen to push the cast button, and that ballot would have been counted for everything they marked correctly, but no vote cast for that particular race. During the hand count, again, the judges could determine that the voter's intent was obviously to cast a vote for that particular candidate, not the one that they had just crossed out the name for. So in all the precincts that were audited, they were all within the acceptable range based in law. Every audit that we have ever conducted since the law went into effect has been in that acceptable range. Never more than 2 votes changed in a precinct. The post-election audit is really the culmination of the processes that prove the accuracy and the reliability of our tabulator machines. You recall we talked before Election Day about the pre-test. The pre-election public test allows the public to see how the machines are tested, to alert the voters of any marking errors, and verifies that the machines do count as they should. We test different types of ink, different colors, pencils, marking devices, to show that everything that a voter uses as a marking instrument will also work to have the machine count that particular ballot. Post-election, this audit reaffirms and verifies the machine's count as accurate. And I can't stress this enough, but the machines counted the ballots exactly as the voters marked the ballots. The paper ballots are marked by the voters, and the tabulators do just that. They tabulate them accurately and timely. In both cases with change, it was because voters did not follow instructions in how to mark their ballot correctly. So the machine counted the ballot exactly as the voter had marked that ballot. Baxter had around, P1E had around 1,200 ballots that were cast in person at the polling place on Election Day. It took the election judges 2 hours to count those 2 races manually for those 1,200 ballots. That's the minimum amount of time that it would have taken to do a hand count in the city of Baxter for 2 races. I had the machine count to be able to proof against their count. They would not have had that if they were doing a hand count in the polling place on election night. At a minimum, you would be recounting ballots 3 times for the same offices because you have to get at least 2 counts that are going to match. And even though it was 10 o'clock in the morning and they hadn't been working a full day in the polls already on election day, I had both judges, all judges actually, noted, I'm going to be seeing spots for a long time, because when you look at those ballots, that's what you're looking at, is the dots, the spots on what has been looked at there. Those ballots would have had to have been counted at a minimum of 3 times to ensure that you at least got 2 counts that matched to note what that would be. 99.9% of voters marked their ballot correctly, and the election judges made notice of that as well. They said that our voters in Crow Wing County are really smart and they follow instructions really, really well. When 99.99% of the voters mark their ballots correctly as instructed, the machine counts those ballots accurately 100% of the time. As I said, the only change from the machine count and the hand count was 2 ballot marking errors by the voters. The full process yesterday took about 3 hours to complete, and I want to give a great thank you to our election judges from Baxter and Fairfield Township who came and conducted those hand counts. We appreciate the work that they did. They really did a very efficient and effective job, followed all their instructions, and made note of everything that they were doing as they went through. So I believe that the process was very well done. And once again, our election, now this circles everything up, and our election is considered final at this point.
Mr. Chairman, if I may. I broke it again. I actually was at the audit for almost the whole thing yesterday as well, just to experience it because I'd never been to one before, and I just want to give kudos to Deb and her staff. For instance, when there were a number of people who were in the audience watching the recount, on that overcount that changed the vote in the governor's race, once the election judges made their determination, she took the ballot, walked over and stood in front of everyone so that everyone could see, pointed it out completely and succinctly, explained the whole process and what it was all about, and every one of them were nodding yes or verbally saying I agree and that looks right. So I just thought that was cool, and I just thought you'd like to know that.
Yeah.
It was recognized as well. Thank you.
Thank you, Darren.
I do want to add, there was also a couple of ballots where the voters truly did make an overvote. They filled in 2 ovals for the same race. They would have cast their ballot, pushing the button to say, yep, I recognize that. In that case, the judges can't make a determination of who they really truly intended to vote for. Whether you have a hand count or a machine count in that case, that vote is not going to count in that office. That is going to be truly considered an overvote, but everything else that the voter marked correctly on their ballot would be counted. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, You know that we've had folks who have been concerned about our election integrity for quite some time and visiting with us, and we've had a chance to interact with those folks a number of times. And while we might not have agreed with them about the fact that whether there was any inaccuracies in the election, we always agreed with them that this needs to be accurate, that this needs to be honest, transparent. And I just want to point out that the efforts Debbie has gone to make sure that those observers could observe, and all of the efforts trying to make sure that this was as transparent as it can be, I think that is something that we all hold in high regard. It is a foundational principle of our democracy, and we're fortunate to have Debbie and her staff and all of the election judges in Crow Wing County. That's what meets my definition of patriotism.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you, Nim.
No.
Great work again.
Thank you so much.
Mr. Chair, if I might, we're down to additional business, and of course, I always have additional business.
Oh, boy. Okay.
So, first of all, I also would like to thank the staff, all the judges, and the volunteers that helped with this election. I think it just proves the integrity of the election process in Crow Wing County, and I think across the state of Minnesota. So thank you very much to them. December 7th is Pearl Harbor Day. 2,400 soldiers passed away that day, 68 volunteers, and 5 out of 8 battleships sunk, and the other 3 were damaged. Let's not forget those soldiers that gave up their lives that day. And then the last thing is Happy Thanksgiving to everybody, all the staff, and thank you for everything that you do. I appreciate it, and with that, if nobody else has additional things, Commissioner Coring, I would make the motion to adjourn.
I'll second that.
All right, a motion by Commissioner Barrow, second by Commissioner Coring. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Brecken?
Aye.
Commissioner Coring?
Yes.
Commissioner Barrows?
Aye.
Commissioner Franzine?
Aye.
Commissioner Hoag?
Aye. Motion passes.